I'm here to Chautauqua for a few weeks of the season, and you go to a concert and you see a flautist. Do you wonder what could be if you had continued on with your lessons?
Well, I really enjoyed playing the flute, and it was a really important coaching lesson for me as a young girl. I took lessons here at Chautauqua from a very, very renowned flute teacher. His name was Mr. Pellerite, Walter Pellerite, and he also was a professor at Indiana University. So I could have gone to Indiana to, play in the orchestra. But unfortunately, I had a teacher when I was about 13 or 14 years old that turned me totally off to the flute. And I want to make sure as a coach that I'm a coach that really encourages young women to play basketball and enjoy basketball, not turn them off.
Chautauqua, a vignette, and this is 1996. You're the coach for what became the gold medalist team, and personal story for me and for your dad's friends and chums, little kids, my son in other words, was to go down and to deliver to your dad a bottle of champagne while we're watching the gold medal ceremony, and have him read a note from the kids to him, congratulating him. And I know that for the first time you had a chance to see that on the evening of your game against Pacific.
Right. Well, first of all, I was, really disappointed that my dad could not come to the Olympics. But at the time, he was getting treatment up at Roswell Park for cancer, and unfortunately, fortunately, he was able to watch the Olympics on television. But unfortunately, he couldn't come. So thank you very much for filming my dad. It's the only video I have of my father, of anything to do with basketball. And I was shocked to get that in the mail when you emailed it to me. And it's a treasure. So I really appreciate that, and thank you very much for sharing.
As your mom was there when you won that game. So what was the emotions from the familial side? Yes, you had the team celebrating and all that stuff, but what did you think about?
Well, I can really relate to, there's this discussion right now about Simone Biles and the pressure, and I think a lot of different people have weighed in on it, and it's something that is very real. The pressure on our team to win a gold medal was very real and palpable. Everywhere we went, people, whether we were in the airport and the baggage people, or just everywhere we went, it was like win the gold, win the gold, win the gold. And we went to the White House, and President Clinton. We went to the Supreme Court house, and to the highest court in the land, the basketball court on the third floor, and met Justice Ginsburg and Justice O'Connor. And it was, when we did win, it was a tremendous relief. It was, there was a lot of joy and a lot of celebrating, but there was crying. I mean, you were just like so relieved that you did what you set out to do. It was just it was really exciting, but the pressure to perform, and I worked really hard. A year earlier, in 1995, on August 4th, 1995, I said, I had this kind of breakdown after a run. I was just, taking a shower, and I'm like, what if we don't win? What if we're not there? And I realized right then I had to get a grip on it. And it's, I just said, I'm going to enjoy every minute of being the Olympic coach. And, we have the best team. I know what I'm doing. Let's go win the gold. And just to really think positive thoughts. And so it was very exciting to win. It was a lot of emotion, of happiness, of sadness that it was over, just the relief. So all flooded you.
There's a lot of downtime in between games. I mean, they're just you play a game, it's over, you go back to the hotel, then you have a certain schedule the next day or two. How does one keep their sense of humor and focus?
Well, we were on a very set schedule. We played, we had opening ceremonies, which were thrilling. I mean, I feel sorry for the people that went to Tokyo the athletes did not get to experience an opening ceremonies like we did in Atlanta, where Muhammad Ali, and Janet Evans like kind of lit the torch. But 25 years ago was a different time in the Olympics, and our world was in a different place then, and it was absolutely thrilling. But you never felt like you played a game and you're always getting ready for the next game. So if you played at 3 o'clock or whatever, 4 o'clock. You'd have dinner, you'd watch video, you'd rest, you'd do the prep for the next game, and then the next game came and you'd have that one. And so we played every other day, and it was a great schedule. And my job was, number one thing was keep everyone healthy, not let anyone get hurt. And that we had everyone healthy for those 2 weeks. With the national team, we trained, we played, we traveled over 150,000 miles. We went to, Russia, we went to China, we went to Australia, all on separate trips. And we were never healthy except for those 2 weeks during the Olympics. So it was really exciting to be healthy and to get a chance to play those games.
You come back. How do you gear up for Stanford?
Now that's a great question. I did not do it correctly. I think the first thing I did was, I got home and I hadn't been home for 3 months. And I look in my refrigerator, of course there's nothing there, and I go to the grocery store, and it was the funniest thing. I was picking out oranges, and I remember putting the oranges in my bag, and this woman was kind of looking at me funny, and and then she kind of was looking, she goes, I recognize you, and I'm like, okay, and she said, aren't you Tara? I'm like, okay, that's close enough. And she said, didn't you just win a gold medal at the Olympics? And I go, yeah, and I'm feeling good. And she goes, you're shorter than I thought. So I thought that was pretty funny. It just, that one thing I think really just grounded me right away. I'm like, back to my real life. I gotta, just, take out the garbage, do everything that you always have to do, and Olympic gold medal, which the coaches don't get, but, winning the medal, I did a lot of interviews. We actually were taking our team to Italy in August. And so after about 2 weeks, we started practicing with our Stanford team. And, and I was kind of on a high, and we went back to Italy to a place I'd taken our USA team. And, I saw the same maitre d', and we had a great trip. But around December, I was just exhausted. And I just, I don't know, I didn't know what had hit me. It was just like I'd run into a wall. And we really had, 96 we had a very, that was 96, 97 we had a team. And unfortunately our team, it was ranked number 1. We had a great chance of winning a national championship, and we lost a game that I forever, it was the hardest game we've ever lost. And what I did was I went back to my parents. My parents were here at Chautauqua, and I just realized I was exhausted, but it allowed me to spend time with my dad in the spring that I wouldn't have spent with, and then he passed away that next December. So, in 1997, for about a week I came here. I remember my mom and I watching movies late at night, and, just walking the grounds and just doing things that, you just kind of need a little recharge in that battery.
Chautauqua, and you're born in, was it Melrose, Massachusetts? And talk a little bit about your mom and dad.
Both my parents are educators. My dad was a reading specialist, and my mother was she actually had her master's and then got a second master's in pathology, speech speech pathology. So my dad, we always had books, a lot of books around the house. So I'm an avid reader. I love to read. And, my dad was about sports and books. So that's pretty much what I do too. I'm about basketball and studying. And so we always, the day school was out, my dad had the car parked facing out. We were going to the lake. So before we came here, we actually went to either Schroon Lake or Saranac Lake, which was a lake that, this is a busy lake, and these lakes were like calm, and if you saw another boat, you'd run down to the point to see who was coming in your bay. We had a lot of family time. Our family is very close. The children are very close. My parents, they're both teachers. We didn't have a lot of money. you know, it wasn't about, and things were, I think, very different then, but my dad was about experiences, and both my parents were about experiences, and getting a great education and doing things. We skied, we were always active. You know, we never sat around. There was just, you know, there's always things going on with our family and playing. We played in the neighborhood, all the kids, you know, whether it's climbing trees, playing football, basketball, baseball, tennis. We had an ice skating pond. I mean, we were always active, and I love that.
Why Chautauqua? I mean, you're from Massachusetts to kind of upstate New York,
Right.
that area, and then how did he find this place?
Well, my dad taught with Syracuse University, had a summer program here that was about SAT prep, and my dad got involved with that, and we came the first year. We lived right on our same street. We lived on Simpson Street, and that's where our house is now. But you know, we had 5 kids, a dog, and we could only rent a place once. We'd rent it one summer, and they would never rent to our family again. But we went to all these places on the grounds. And my dad worked with Syracuse, and then he also worked at the golf course to be able to afford Chautauqua for 5 kids. And then my mom did lip reading, and she also worked. So my parents would work while we were here at Chautauqua, and we played. We would go to the Boys and Girls Club. I crewed on Lightnings, you know, since I was about 12 years old. You know, we water skied. Some of my best friends for life are Chautauquans and people I grew up with here. And this just became a place that I've come to every year since I was 9 years old. So, you know, it's just I love it.
There are skill sets that you would love to kind of take from the summer retreat. It's kind of a little away from it. It's not reality here in many senses, Chautauqua. And to be able to somehow bring your team here to kind of experience for 2 or 3 weeks, is that something that I know it's almost impossible, but would that be aspirational? It
would be fun, you know. I think one of the things that, like when I was growing up, obviously it was so different. There weren't teams for girls. There weren't, you know, you didn't have travel teams. You didn't have varsity. You didn't have scholarships, television, all the things, Olympics. You didn't have any of that. And, you know, so my summers were playing a lot of sports and exposure to a lot of things. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that. I mean, I never, there are, you know, young women my age that, you know, as we got older, they started basketball camps, like when I was like maybe in college, you know, and they played basketball all summer long, and they made the Olympic team. And our players are, for right now in their lives, they're really committed 12 months out of the year to their sport, and they have to be because it is so competitive. But for me, I'm a variety person. I love variety, so I love being here at Chautauqua, and I think that you know, when I'm out sailing, I'm like, what other Division I basketball coach can get up in the morning and water ski, you know, and in the afternoon is sailing their Lightning, and is at night going to watch, you know, a symphony concert. I think, first of all, a lot of them don't have that background, and I'm very thankful that I do. But I think it's a really, really special place, and I love to share Chautauqua with all kinds of, you know, friends and former players.
I noticed you made a pitch to Nancy Lopez also. That's the first time you'd met her?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So right there, right, we saw that very first handshake.
Yes. Yes, it was great. I really enjoyed meeting Nancy, and, you know, we had a fun panel that we were on, and you know, we have text since then, and, you know, so I've, it was really fun. I mean, she's a tremendous golfer, and I was, you know, my experience is, like, I'm an absolute hack, and I told this, I hit someone at the driving range. I mean, I hit a little boy. It was our athletic director's son, and he got knocked out. So my golf experience is nothing like hers. But it would be really fun to have her come to Chautauqua and enjoy it's such a beautiful place.
Well, I noticed your softball pitching ability. That was on display the other night. Well done. As you are a celebrity, you're a celebrity. Does this dawn on you? I mean, person from Melrose, Massachusetts, and kind of worked your way up till now. You are talked about in the icons of the great Division I basketball coaches. Is that kind of...
Well, I think just being here is great because people here just know me as Tara, and a water skier, sailor, playing shuffleboard, going to the concerts, hanging out on the porch, playing bridge with my mom. I don't let things really get in the way of having fun and living the life the way I want to live it. And there are certain things that I do for my job, and I'm very fortunate. I've traveled all over the world. I've told this story, and you might have heard it, but like my dad, when I was 15, my dad would always say, "Come in and do your algebra homework. Basketball is never going to take you anywhere." And I knew then algebra wasn't taking me anywhere, but I sent my dad postcards. P.S. I'm in France. P.S. I'm in Brazil. P.S. all over the world, and I've met presidents. Any great basketball player, basically I've met them. I'm really, at Stanford, I'm, emailing with Katie Ledecky, congratulating her on winning a gold medal. So, I'm around a lot of extremely talented, extremely successful people, and I love it. I love the environment that I'm in, but it's not like I have a big head or anything. I'm just I just want to have, stay healthy and keep water skiing and keep sailing and, keep coaching.
Are there skill sets you want to share in the form of a book, or is this something that you wanted to sit down sometime and say, I've done so much, and not necessarily memoirs, but here are skill sets that you played, but that's not your claim to fame?
Well, I do a lot of clinics. I do, teaching things. If I were to do anything with a book, honestly, I would love to be a writer, but I would write children's stories for little girls about basketball. Because when I was a little girl, I would go up to the library here, the Smith Library at Chautauqua, and if I wanted to read a book about basketball, it's all about boys. And so hopefully I can write like just fun little stories that might be might encourage young girls to play basketball. I met a friend had a daughter that's 5 years old and she wants to play basketball. It'd be fun for her to be able to go to the library and read a book about a team that was about girls, and maybe just dealing with things that kids have to deal with now. To help them, maybe just think about how I can be, a better teammate or a better daughter. But beyond that, it would be fun to write fiction, and I do have, I've had so many great experiences of meeting people and traveling all over the world that I feel like I do have a good book in me.
Do you have a good story in you? Now, we're at Comedy Week.
Yeah.
And you've obviously coached, won many, many games. So is there a moment or two you'd say, Greg, you're not going to believe what happened in this particular incident to you, to somebody else, that might be just comedic?
I think that when you're around 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, there's always something funny going on. I mean, it's just like little things are funny to me. All of a sudden I get a text message from the back of the bus, hey, can we stop? And, I got to use the restroom. I'm like, come up and talk to me, But there's so many things in practice that are funny that happen. When you're explaining drills and maybe they don't get it, or, just funny things happen all the time with our team. But I don't know that out of context they would seem as funny, but we laugh a lot. And one of the things that we do, I know that the players tease coaches all the time, and they'll mimic you, and that I see as a sign of endearment. But we rip on them all the time. I mean, we're always doing, telling jokes about what happened in practice or this person or that person, and we really entertain ourselves. But I think it's kind of more inside jokes, so I don't know that it would be funny to.
What idiosyncrasy of yours do they pick up on?
Oh, let's see. They say Tara-isms. Like I'll say things like I'll talk to them about, like if they're having a bad day, I might say, hey, sometimes you're the dog and sometimes you're the hydrant. And I'll have little sayings for them, and they put a book together of Tara-isms. I mean, just this stuff that, I just say, look at, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night, so that ain't gonna fly. and just, someone will do something and I'll go look at, the movie Dumb and Dumber's already been made and you're not in it, okay? So we're not doing that stuff. So, some of the stuff just kind of is, new, but sometimes it's you get new kids every 4 years, so you can say something that you said 10 years ago and it still works.
Do people even know what Dumb and Dumber is at that age?
The movie? Yeah, I don't know, but they get the gist of it. Yeah, they do get into Stanford, so they're pretty smart.
Yeah, that's always an amazement to me when I'm talking things that just come out of your mouth that you assume somebody would know because they are of similar age.
Right.
You lose it. Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight, you're in Indiana. You are taking classes from, observing, watching a guy who's a class unto himself.
Yeah.
Did you have impressions? Did you have an impression of him when you was there, and even now?
Well, when I first went to Indiana, I really didn't know who Bobby Knight was. I didn't know who Coach Knight was, but once you got there, you figured it out really fast.
Right.
So I took his coaching class, and because I took his coaching class, he allowed me then to come to all the practices. So, I was allowed to go to practice, and I would sit, not in the front row, but I would sit like maybe 10 rows up or whatever. And I went to every practice. I watched them practice a lot. And he would come, he'd stick around and come to our practices. And, I think he was a great teacher. There are obviously some things that he would do that I would not do. But he's a great teacher, and I loved watching their teams play. They played with a purpose. A lot of basketball to me is just random, and I hate random basketball. I like to see basketball played, with a style. It doesn't always have to be the same style, but a certain way of playing.
Is there now? I mean, I suspect lots of people call you for advice, but here you are at sort of the pinnacle. Are there people you call for advice?
Well, the number one person I call is my sister. My sister Heidi is, my mother would say she's the best coach in the family, so, and I don't disagree. She is the head coach at UC San Diego. She's 10 years younger than I am, and we're on the phone probably every day talking about basketball. Now she can look at my practice on Huddle. It's a platform that, you can share your practices. And so she'll watch my practice, or I'll talk to her about recruiting. And we talk pretty much every day. Another person, there's a coach I'm a copier. I like to look at what teams do, and I think, oh, that will work for our team. And one of the things, we ran what's called the triangle offense for a long time, which was what Phil Jackson ran in Chicago. And Jim Clemens was his assistant coach, he went to Ohio State. So I knew Jim, and he helped me, implement the triangle offense. And when I didn't feel like we had the personnel for that, at Stanford, we can't recruit people to our system. We have to recruit the people and then put the system to the people. So we started running the Princeton offense, which a woman in Sacramento, she's the coach at UC Davis, is a great coach, and she and her husband have helped me immeasurably. In fact, I've invited them. They were supposed to come last year to Chautauqua. She and her husband and 2 children. I have an apartment at my house, and they were going to stay there, but then the pandemic hit. So I hope she'll come next year. But she's fantastic, Jen Gross. And I do talk to a lot of different coaches. I learn a lot from different clinics, and I talk to players about things. And just like we have a transfer player, and I'm like, what drills do you like? What are things? So I feel like I'm a lifetime learner.
I'm curious, among coaches, is there sort of some code, or you're anticipating you're going to play Connecticut? You're going to play Connecticut, another big game. Will you call coaches from teams that have played them?
I might call them, but now you can see them. I mean, you can see the game. Everything's on Synergy. You can watch like every player that you're going to play against. You can watch every time they touch the ball, so you can see, do they go left, do they go right, do they shoot, do they drive, do they pull up, what are their numbers, and so you can scout that way as much as anything. There might be some people I might talk to, though.
Yeah. Stanford, I'm sure, just because of the nature of the beast, but does analytics become a major part of your game prep
Analytics are a big part. We play what we call scouting report defense. So, if we're going to guard you, you've got 5 players on the team, and I don't think any coach wants their worst players taking the most shots. So we're going to identify who we think is the weakest of the 5 players on the court, or who's coming in the game, and really work hard to really take number 1, 2, and 3 out of the equation and make you beat us with number 4 and 5, or 5, 6, and 7. Right. And so we do use analytics quite a bit. We have one person on our staff. He is just someone that he works for us as kind of as a side thing. He's a mathematician, and he's totally into analytics. But we get a very thick report on each team that we play, and each player, like what they like to do, what their tendencies are, what the plan should be. But then you have to have players that can do the plan.
When you're on the court, though, in the heat of the moment, there's really not a lot of time to reflect back on the analytics of the moment. Do you have somebody, a bench coach, who's sort of steeped in that as you call timeout and the players gather and they sit down and you're going to call a play or put in a defense? Do you have somebody you're kind of looking to right away and saying, what do you suggest?
Well, on our staff, we each have different roles on our staff, and one of my coaches, as an example, who sits to my right or my left, whoever closest to the table, is keeping track of all the fouls, keeping track of the timeouts, whose possession is it, and those are critical things. And when you get in the heat of a big game, you can't manage all those things in your own head, so you need someone doing that. My other assistant does all the special situations. She does all the out-of-bounds plays. So I might take a timeout, and then I'll tell her, I say, I'm going to take a timeout. We need to get a 3, or we need to get a 2, or we need to get a specific player the ball. And we have practiced these things over and over. We practice our special situations and our out-of-bounds plays every day. And they come in handy. We've won games because of them, and we've lost games because we couldn't execute correctly. So we do have a kind of a job description, on the bench. It's not so much changing things, it's going into your playbook of what what you're not going to do something probably brand new, although sometimes you might, but for the most part you're doing what what you've practiced.
Is there a play you can remember you'd say, I can't believe that they pulled that? Like, it may have been mapped out perfectly, it didn't work, but something happened that dramatically you won the game?
Well, that's happened more than once, but it happened this year when we were playing South Carolina. We ran an out-of-bounds play, and we were down 1. We attacked the basket. Actually, she should have pitched out, but she didn't. The player was open out there, wide open. She missed the shot, and one of our other players got the offensive rebound and put it back in to put us up 1 with, I'm going to say, like maybe 17 or 18 seconds to go. And then we got the ball back, and we got fouled. We had to get the ball in bounds. We got it in bounds once. They fouled again. And then the second time, they didn't foul. They just took somebody's arms off completely. Just took, just it was totally foul. It was not called, and it was. They had a shot. They had 2 shots to win the game and didn't hit either one of them. But I think that was a little karma because of the foul.
Yeah. You ever been thrown out?
Ejected. Let's see. One time I got one. I've gotten only about. I'm going to say 3 or 4 technicals. I've never been thrown out of a game. I don't want to miss the game. Yeah. And I'm not really, I look at the officials, like I'm not one of those coaches that's always complaining, always screaming at the refs. I think the officials know me, and if I say something, it's because that's what's happening. I'm not like totally BSing them the whole game. I did get a technical one time in Alaska early on in my career because they called like 10 seconds, but at the time we didn't have that rule, and they were officiating boys. And I'm like, that's not a college rule, technical, I said, well, I'm right, And then one time I got a technical. This was kind of crazy, but I didn't know that the officiating pair, man and woman, were married. And so I was questioning and very critical of the female official, and the male official came over and gave me a technical. I'm like, what's that for? He was just like, and then I found out later it was, it was his wife. So, but I can't even, I think I think I can only think of like 3 or 4. One time one of our players got clobbered, absolutely clobbered, and I was worried that she got hurt, and I ran out on the court, and I got a technical for running out on the court to see how she was doing. So
what's remarkable is that you could remember those 3, but that's all there was.
Yeah, there aren't very many. And I don't want our players to get technicals either. I would just feel very badly if we lost a game by 1 point or 2 points, and it was because I couldn't control myself. So yeah. I'm not like a lunatic on the bench. I mean, sometimes I can get into it and practice more, but during the game I'm pretty calm.
Your mother watches most of the games, if not.
She does, yeah.
Does she call you after the game?
We talk after the game, but it's not about the game so much. I mean, except that she'll say, well, the TV camera didn't show you enough, or you need to wear brighter clothing, I'm like, Mom, don't worry about it, So, but she's pretty funny.
That's hilarious. But
yeah.
One of the things we captured on that movie in 1996 was your dad, I assume talking to your mother. I don't know if he talked to you, but there was a phone call.
Yeah.
Captured there.
Yeah. It wasn't me.
Yeah, that was exciting. So as you reflect back, we just had two young girls sneak behind my shoulder here, looking at this, looking at you. And if you had a message to those two who obviously had a curiosity as to who you were, and may have even known that you were who you are, what would you tell them?
I think that whether they're young girls or young boys, I just think that to really value every day, and it's hard when you're young to enjoy kind of where you're at and who you're with, and really try to work hard to be the best that you can be. So if you're in the 4th grade or the 9th grade or whatever, it's doing well in school and being a good friend and being a good teammate, being a good daughter or son, and not get caught up in the crazy world that we live in of social media and worrying about who likes you on Twitter or what your picture looks like on Instagram. I mean, I really think, I'm not a social media person at all. I don't do any of it, and I'm glad I don't, because I'd rather be doing things than taking pictures about what I look like. So I think that this is a tough time to grow up, and I really applaud parents for their just their commitment to their children and raising them. And I would just, as a young person, I would just really limit my phone time and my screen time and get out and play.
You knew you were doing this today. You graciously accepted it in anticipation, or maybe not. Is there any questions you thought I might ask that I haven't yet? I wasn't really sure exactly what I was getting into. I kind of do that a lot, but I think maybe one thing that to understand me, I don't think of myself as a one-dimensional basketball coach, and I think Chautauqua helps. Chautauqua is so much more than just one thing, and I think one of the things that I'm probably most proud of is that I really feel like I'm an active member of my community. I'm not sitting back complaining about things, but I want to be someone that gives a lot back, whether it's to Chautauqua or to, I'm on the board of the Humane Society, and I work at Stanford with Job Train, which is a local kind of retraining for maybe some individuals that have a rough patch and need to be retrained for jobs. So Job Train, the Humane Society. Our team is very active, going to the local. We have a local food kitchen. This year, when we won as a coach, winning like 1099 games, I rounded up, but I gave $11,000 to our food kitchen at Christmas, and they were very appreciative of that. And a lot of people gave money because they saw that I did. I think
you know, as much as anything else, I want to be a positive leader in my community, and I want our players to do the same when they graduate and they go out into the world. And you know, I just take, you know, you kind of already hit it. You know, you knew my dad, and you know my mom, and you know, I want them to be proud of me, and it's you know, doing the right thing and doing things for other people. You
have accomplished so much, but at some point there's going to be a moment where you say, time to move on.
Yeah.
And I'm not asking you to disclose anything, but do you have a sense as to what it is you might do, not when, but what it is you might do?
Well, you know, there's a lot of times where, especially after the season, and you know, we've won 3 national championships, so of my 40-something years, you know, only 3 of them have ended on a high. You know, every other year I'm like ready to quit right after I'm like, I can't take this anymore. You know, and you need a break. But it is sometimes and actually a brutal schedule of whether it's recruiting, you know, dealing with all the issues of you know, kids getting hurt, parents having expectations that aren't realistic, players having you know, unrealistic expectations, you know, just all the things that you deal with your staff. That this is why Chautauqua is so much of a battery charger for me. It's so, you know, just gives me the energy to go back and get at it again. But at some point, I'll be at Chautauqua longer. I'd love to be up here in the fall. I think it would just be spectacularly beautiful. And I'll probably travel, you know, and hopefully that will be, you know, we'll be done with the pandemic, or at least a big part of it. But, you know, I love, you know, I've traveled all over the world, but I've done it working. So it'd be fun to just travel and have fun. But I love my job. And, you know, as long as we're successful, I talked with Roy Williams this summer, and, you know, I said, you know, why did you retire? And he just felt like he wasn't communicating with his team anymore. You know, and if I'm ever at that point, I'm going to retire too. Mm-hmm. And you know, but if I do, then I'll just work on my books, you know, or I'll be, you know, water skiing twice a day instead of once a day, or, you know, sailing, or, you know, I'll take advantage of all the things at Chautauqua that I, you know, can't take advantage of right now.
Well, Randy Anderson extends his best, and he's just so thrilled that you took the time here today. And any last my thoughts before I let you go back to probably your next event here? Well,
my next event's probably a recruiting phone call, but you know, we're really excited about the great young ladies we have coming to Stanford and the great team we have. So, you know, I'm very proud to be in the Chautauqua Hall of Fame. There are tremendous athletes, and you know, I have a lot of stuff, you know, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this stuff? So I'm going to send it to Randy.
He'll be thrilled to hear that and watch this as well. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg.
Appreciate it.